We should recognize really that any kind really to move forward, we really need to be more integrated. We need to look, recognizing firstly there are trade-offs. We also need to look at the efficiency right across our chain, both from where we are and across to our suppliers and also the other way. And then the third point I really want to make very quickly here is that we really do need to make partnerships work. And partnerships are not just looking at partners in your own sectors, but looking across and bringing across institutions, organizations that actually might have the opposite view or have a different attitude or vision to what you might have. And this is really very essential if we really want to make lasting change. And then the final part really is really to look into the future. Future risks, opportunities to develop products, certification systems, and then also to integrate environmental actions early. And there are lots of examples of this all over. We've in IUCN have just finished work in India with Damra Port, which was actually trying to mitigate turtle nesting grounds, and they actually took very concrete steps to build it into the whole process, recognizing that ports are a very important infrastructure, but yet you need to be environmentally as sound as possible. Having said that, these kinds of relationships usually bring controversy from both sides. You have on one side the ardent conservationists who will never agree to that, and on the other side, those who never accept it. So there has to be that middle ground, and that can be sometimes very tricky to work with. Next slide, please. This moves on very quickly to my last portion, which is Mangroves for the Future. This is a multi-partner initiative that is taking part in 8 countries across the Indian Ocean region with a diverse suite of institutions ranging from UNDP, IUCN, CARE, FAO, a lot of the international organizations, plus some of the non-governmental institutions, as well as institutions such as CARE that has been more focused on livelihood and human development elements. And this program initiative actually resulted after the Asian tsunami. And it actually highlights how disasters sometimes can provoke us into actually really taking action. And there is the opportunity to make change. And what we recognized, I think, collectively is that we didn't do a good job of harnessing all those resources that we got in that post-disaster environment to really make things better. And Bill Clinton at the time, I think, talked about building back better. And this was a slogan, I think, that we've tried to use in MFF. One of the key things that we see is that these areas are extremely valuable, both in economic terms and ecological terms. And yet they're undervalued. We do not invest in them either in terms of conservation or in terms of economic elements. And there is a real need to do that more strategically and cohesively. Next slide, please. As we've seen, coastal areas actually are extremely important. They have tourism, industry, environmental values, and matching and mapping all of those is a huge challenge. And one of the issues we have as well is the whole legal and governance structures, complex rules, regulations that all make sustainability a major issue. So what have we worked towards? Really, there are 4 key things that we've tried to work with. One is at a policy level is trying to make it relevant, looking at how we can support good legal and policy frameworks that enable us to develop a more integrated approach to managing coastal areas. And this includes not just looking at it from a conservation point, but also looking at it from a point of businesses and other sectors of stakeholders that depend on the coast, because they're actually very important economic generators. People are always going to be the center of what we do, because really improving that is quite important. And thirdly, which I think is very relevant to this audience, is actually the importance of partnerships and building diverse and different partnerships, which really are quite essential to make a way forward and really make lasting change. And then finally, actually, is to bring more of the investment approach into how we invest in these systems. And recognizing really that sometimes nature or the natural infrastructure we have is actually quite often undervalued. As part of MFF, one of the recognitions has been that we really need to work with the private sector more effectively. We recognize we do not sometimes understand from a conservation point those linkages, and we recognize that we really need to do that in a more collective and participatory process. The 4 points you see up on this are really some of the key things that we see as important for sustainable business practices from coastal areas from our perspective. And we see that firstly in the terms of partnerships, promoting environmentally sustainable businesses and coastal areas. And that actually includes also promoting good practices and enabling us to learn from some of the good examples that already exist. This obviously results in greener business plans as well. And then actually looking at enhancing investment. And this relates to things like payments for environmental services and recognizing there is a cost to things like water and beauty. Next slide. So really, our focus has been very much to look at, firstly, what are the key industrial sectors that affect coastal areas, and then identify how those relate to what we are trying to promote, which is really an integrated approach to ecosystems management. And then also to see how we can actually use some of the corporate social responsibility initiatives that are already going on and build them into being more holistic and working together. So these are some of the key things that we see as we move forward. Next slide, please. So we are really, as I said, very much in the beginning, and I'm here really is to ask you for your help, because really one of the key things that we want to get is more input from the kinds of issues that you see as important, and the opportunity to share and collaborate. Being here today, I've actually seen a lot of very good examples of how we can promote some good ideas. So I would encourage you, if this is something that you think is important, please, I've got my colleague Simone out there, and we would be very happy to discuss how some of your thinking and ideas can help shape us to make our situation and our ideas much stronger and more relevant to both you and us. So finally, the last slide. I really want to stress 3 things. Ecosystems, we commonly forget, are part of life. They're really the backbone of it. And secondly, really, as we think of moving forward and actually making a change, we really have to think of partnerships as a very important element in that. And those partnerships are not just our traditional partnerships, but new partnerships that forge relationships with new and different types of stakeholders. And then finally, really looking at innovation as an opportunity to change and shape the future. So with that, I will stop. Thank you.